Who do you see on the horizon for 2028 in the Democratic primary?
Right now?
Yeah.
Bernie and AOC.
No.
They got the biggest crowds.
That doesn't matter.
It won't sustain itself, but right now they have no leader.
Bernie, AOC, Mandani are not Democrats. They'll be the first to tell you that. They're democratic socialists, and that's a very different thing, and I don't think people know that yet. I don't think people realize we already have a lot of socialism. Even the country's oldest Latino civil rights group came out against it, yet AOC keeps defending it, saying gender is fluid, language is fluid. Yes, and Latino voters are fluid.
Bill Maher has fired at AOC, and it's scorching. Maher never exactly cheered for the New Yorker when she first stormed onto the political scene, but her recent public remarks, mixed with her brand of woke politics, have done nothing to win him over. On a series of explosive segments on his program, Real Time with Bill Maher, the outspoken comedian has torn into AOC. And it's hot, fiery, and unmissable. So, hit the subscribe button if you haven't.
James Carville knew how to win, and he blamed the Democratic losses this November 2nd on stupid wokeness, to which AOC fired back that wokeness is a term almost exclusively used by older people these days. So that should tell you all you need to know. What? This is a term folks like you brought out very recently and had been proudly displaying at every march since. Just last year, The Guardian declared woke the word of our era. I guess they didn't get the memo from the Mean Girls Club.
Let's dive right into the chaos. Not only is AOC strongly aligned with woke politics, but critics argue she appears increasingly out of touch with everyday concerns. The Congresswoman from New York proudly championed the term woke, waving it like a badge of honor at rallies and protests across her home state, as if embracing the label was the pinnacle of virtue. But now the political winds have shifted, and it's clear that woke has become a term often associated with those who critics say are disconnected from common concerns. Sensing the backlash, AOC appears to be quietly backtracking, trying to soften her image and distance herself from the very ideology she once flaunted. Yet Bill Maher, never one to let a public figure rewrite their narrative unchecked, isn't buying it. On his show, Real Time with Bill Maher, he calls her out unapologetically, holding her accountable for the contradictions and theatrics of her so-called woke politics. It's blunt, fiery.
What a great strategy, never missing an opportunity to remind voters how lame and clueless and hopelessly uncool they are, especially since those are the ones who actually vote. But okay, fine. What word would you like us to use for the plainly insane excesses of the left that are not liberalism, but something completely different? Because you can't have that word liberal from us and think it should cover things like canceling Lincoln and teaching third graders they're oppressors. That's all your new thing.
And unmissable. This is exactly why so many people gravitate toward Maher. He doesn't sugarcoat anything or hide behind careful wording. He says what others are too hesitant to say out loud. If AOC is suddenly distancing herself from the term woke, then it raises a bigger question. What exactly should we call the excesses tied to that ideology? For years, we've seen claims pushed into the mainstream that many find hard to accept. That men can simply identify as women, that children can make life-altering decisions without parental approval, and that biological males should compete in women's sports and access their spaces. These positions have become defining features of what people commonly label as woke culture. So, if AOC now wants to abandon that label, fine. But the ideas haven't disappeared. Maher's point is simple. You can rebrand it all you want.
Every month I see a new poll reporting how much Latinos despise the woke term Latinx. It's about as popular with them as a reboot of Speedy Gonzales. Even the country's oldest Latino civil rights group came out against it, yet AOC keeps defending it, saying gender is fluid, language is fluid.
But the underlying issues remain, and people are still going to question them. I remember vividly how the term Latinx was pushed by liberals, championed by figures like Gavin Newsom and AOC. It was presented as progressive and inclusive, despite many within the Latino community expressing confusion and rejection from the start. Polls and street interviews made it clear that the vast majority of people it was meant to represent didn't identify with it at all. Yet the push continued, as if activists were speaking over the people they claimed to defend. Then came the backlash. Once it became impossible to ignore, Gavin Newsom began walking it back, softening his stance and avoiding the term. AOC, on the other hand, defended it by arguing that language is fluid and evolving. But to many voters, that response felt dismissive and out of touch.
And more of them now than ever are identifying as Republican. So are Asian Americans, whose support for Democrats is down 16 points since the last election. A lot of that is because, in the name of achieving equity in schools, Democrats in deep blue cities have made it a mission to eliminate the advanced programs at which Asian kids excel. Asian parents said, "Okay, I wish all kids well, not a racist, but I need someone who acts like my lawyer." If you're a parent and wanted schools to reopen a lot sooner than they did after COVID shutdowns, or think maybe your kid is getting a bad education partly because it's nearly impossible to fire a lousy teacher, yeah, you're going to say, "Congratulations, teachers, you got yourself a good lawyer." The Democratic Party's always got your back, 100%. But I've noticed my kid is kind of an idiot.
Moments like this didn't just spark debate. They played a role in eroding trust and ultimately cost them at the ballot box. Here, Maher is making the case that figures like AOC are part of the reason many Asian and Latino voters have begun drifting toward the Republican Party. In his view, it's not some grand political realignment out of nowhere, it's frustration. A growing number of voters in these communities feel talked down to, tired of what they see as empty pandering and symbolic gestures that don't translate into real improvements in their daily lives. Instead of buzzwords and cultural posturing, they're prioritizing tangible issues: strong schools for their children, a stable and growing economy, safer neighborhoods, and leaders who focus on practical outcomes. Maher's argument is that when politicians appear more invested in ideological trends than everyday concerns, they risk alienating the very people they claim to represent. And when that trust erodes,
On the horizon for 2028 in the Democratic primary.
Right now?
Yeah.
Bernie and AOC.
No.
They got the biggest crowds.
That doesn't matter.
It won't sustain itself, but right now they have no leader. Okay? But this is the thing the Republican Party has to understand too. Both parties lost in the last election. Trump won, okay? And I don't know if that's going to transfer.
voters don't just complain. They start looking elsewhere for leadership that feels more grounded and genuinely aligned with their priorities. I'm not entirely sure what point Speaker Kevin McCarthy is trying to make here, but one thing seems clear. If figures like AOC and Bernie Sanders are handed the reins of the DNC, it could spell trouble come election time. Yes, they draw massive crowds and generate real energy. Their rallies are loud, passionate, and filled with supporters who are fully bought in. But if recent elections have shown us anything, it's that crowd size doesn't automatically translate into votes. Enthusiasm in the moment doesn't always carry over to the ballot box. We've seen this play out before. In 2024, big-name endorsements, celebrity appearances, and packed events created the illusion of overwhelming support. Yet when Election Day arrived, the results told a different story. The reality is
MAGA adjacent, and then Vance and Jr. will fight it out for that crowd.
But AOC and Bernie, and who's at the top of the ticket?
They're going to lead right now.
Who's at the top of that ticket, Kevin? Because if it's not Bernie, he's going to be vice president and then wait his turn?
No, it would be. Bernie's been running each time. I'm just saying who's in the lead right now. I don't think that's how it ends up.
But big crowds don't necessarily mean who's the right candidate. You know, when I started...
No, but it drives where the ideas are going to go. It's going to drive the money for a while.
It doesn't make them the winner.
It doesn't make them the winner. You'll have to wait till you'll get 2 years out, and then you'll start seeing these governors that start showing solutions. You also have to know, what is the issue going to be? Are we going to have a foreign policy issue? Are we going to have an economic issue? And who's been the best in leading in that? But right now, for the Democrats, who's going to lead for the next 2 years, the money is going to... AOC outraised everybody in the House.
And it's all small dollars.
Winning elections requires more than excitement. It demands broad appeal, strategic messaging, and policies that resonate beyond the base. Without that, energy alone isn't enough. And that's a criticism often directed at Democrats. It's not about who can raise the most money. It never has been. Take Kamala Harris, for example. In the last election cycle, she pulled in an enormous amount of campaign funding within just a few months of being confirmed as the Democratic Party's candidate. The numbers were impressive, dominating headlines and creating the perception of unstoppable momentum. But when it came time to vote, That financial advantage didn't translate into success. What followed was one of the most significant electoral setbacks in recent history. The lesson here is clear. Money can amplify a message, but it can't fix a weak one. Vote
AOC, Mandani are not Democrats. They'll be the first to tell you that. They're democratic socialists, and that's a very different thing, and I don't think people know that yet. I don't think people realize we already have a lot of socialism. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, unemployment insurance, food stamps, veterans benefits, Pell Grants, COVID-era payments, farm subsidies, disability payments, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, corporate bailouts, and the jobs program that is building weapons the Pentagon doesn't even want.